I don't know. So guys, I just want to start this morning just in prayer. I just want us to take some time to follow really from what Harry said at the beginning, to honour our mums. So Lord Jesus, God, we thank you for our mothers. We thank you for our biological mothers, the women who brought us into this world, Lord. No matter what our relationship is with them, whether it's been good or bad, whether we even knew them, God, we just thank you for that gift of life. And then, God, as well, we thank you for other mothers in our lives, maybe grandparents who stepped in, maybe stepmums, maybe a foster mum. God, we thank you for our emotional and spiritual mums. Yeah, God, we just thank you for that nurturing gift you've put inside women all across the world. And then, God, we as mothers here today, God, we just ask you for the strength and the grace to continue doing this job, God, because it is not easy. It's not something that's easy to do well. So, God, we just pray for your strength to carry on and to acknowledge the privilege of being able to raise tiny humans. Amen. Amen. So being a mum is, I think, personally, both the greatest privilege, but also the hardest task to accomplish. And for those of you who haven't had children yet, especially you, Mel, you're nearly there, being a mum is really hard. It's like, if you've ever babysat before, can you imagine doing that forever? Like 24/7 for at least probably 18 years. Some of us, I'm pretty sure my kids are going to hang around probably a bit longer than when they're 18. But it's not just babysitting either, it's all the other responsibilities that come with that. So we look after the home, don't we? A lot of the time we'll be responsible for the cleaning maybe, we will be responsible for taking care of finances, doing food shopping, school trips, making sure the kids have got their uniforms and that they're fed, obviously. Hope you don't forget that one. But it's full on, and for some of us we're blessed to have, I couldn't do this without Daz. So you guys out there that are single mamas or have been single mums in the past, absolute props to you guys, because I cannot imagine how difficult that must be and how difficult maybe that has been for some of you at times in your lives. So being a mum is hard. Being a perfect mum is impossible. So if you're looking out there at anybody else today thinking they're perfect parents or they're perfect mums, let's just blow that out of the water right now. It's not possible to be a perfect parent, okay? Sometimes we are good enough. So that's what I aim for. I aim to be a good enough parent. And it's even harder, I think, today with the advent of social media. And what I mean by that is, although it's already difficult to be a mum, but now we have the opportunity also 24/7 to compare ourselves to every other mum out there. And we see pictures all the time, don't we, of our friends and how they're doing the mum life. And the problem with that is that, as you know on social media, and I'm sure all of us know, we only show our best bits, don't we? So we might take a picture of ourselves having a nice meal together, or the kids all happy and playing nicely, or I don't know what it is. Whatever it is that you take pictures of, you don't take a picture of your washing pile. I don't think you guys want to see a picture of my washing pile at the minute. It's challenging Kilimanjaro. So we only see other people's good bits when we're looking online, don't we? And has anybody ever taken a selfie? So if you're together in a group of friends and they all take selfies and then you're looking back through them afterwards, and no doubt there's someone in the group that says, delete that one. That's a bad angle, I don't want that one going out there. Leah's saying, yeah. Leah doesn't even let you get to the point of taking the picture before she's deleting it off Facebook. And I think, even me personally, I think I have a better side. So if I'm ever in a picture, some of you guys will know this, I'm like, hang on, let me get to this side. And that's because this side I've got a gap. So you've all seen it, live seen it now as well, I may as well give up the ghost. So I'll present this side, you know, but we present the best stuff, basically. And I was just thinking about this last night because I took a picture, you guys that are on Facebook might have seen it, and it was of the presents Liam and Soph got me for Mother's Day. So Soph got me some chocolates and a mug and some cards, and Liam had got me some dried beef. Yeah, it was brilliant but random, he knows me. And as I was putting it on the side, I thought, oh, hang on, you can see the bin from that angle, so I'm going to turn it round. So that side's a bit tidier. And just to illustrate this, and just to go a bit further into this, I was thinking about all the times that I do things like that. You know, sometimes we share a picture of a good day out, or something pretty that is in our house, or a vase of flowers. But if you're at my house sometimes, if you zoom out a bit from the vase of flowers, you'll probably see on the floor a pile of washing. Oh, sorry, Daz, some of your pants there. These are clean, by the way. Yeah. So if you zoom out a bit, you might see that there's dirty washing on the floor. If you zoom out a bit more, you might notice that this is what's for dinner tonight. Any of you can't see, I may as well just pick it up really, it's solid black pizza. Has anybody ever done that? Yeah. Burn the pizza? So this is how ridiculous I am. Yesterday I planned to burn this for this morning, and I still left it in too long. I didn't mean it to be that burnt. I went to bed at nearly midnight and Dad said, the oven's on. Someone put the oven on, and I said, oh my goodness. I put a pizza in there to burn, and I've actually left it in there for about 4 hours. Yeah, definitely not edible, don't go near that. So yeah, if you zoom out a bit more, you might see that I've burnt the dinner. So my flowers in the vase might look fantastic, but there's washing on the floor, there's a burnt pizza in the oven, and if you come round unannounced, maybe you haven't given me that text where you say, I'm on my way. Some of you will know this. This is what you might see. You might see me come to the door in my dressing gown, and this dressing gown doesn't get in many of my Facebook pictures, as you probably know, but it is a good representation of what I normally wear. And if you come round unannounced on a Friday night, let's get this right. I've been practicing this, I don't know if I'll be able to do it now. If you come round unannounced on a Friday night, you might also see me doing this. I'm going to drink it, it's stale. And I do normally use a glass, okay? Normally, depends how desperate, how bad the week's been, to whether I opt for the middleman of a glass. Okay, I remember reading a quote. I'm just going to take this off because I don't know how seriously you'll be able to take me wearing my dressing gown through my whole preach. That's typical of me as well, I just throw things on the floor. So there's one experience that unites us all as parents, and actually that's guilt. We'd love to say it's joy, wouldn't we? And we'd love to say all these good things, but there's not a parent that's got through that time without feeling guilty or regretful about decisions we've made. And I just want to say to you guys today, that's okay. It's an experience that unites all of us, including me and Daz, okay? Mel, you're not going to get it all right, so it'd be easier if you know that now and don't beat yourself up. We all feel we're missing the mark, but that's okay. And a lot of the things that we worry about the most, I'd like to say, perhaps don't really matter. So the things like having a nice presentable house and having the best outfit for World Book Day, they're not that important. Does anybody struggle to dress their kids for World Book Day?
We just went
McDonald's instead. Thankfully, my children are now in secondary school, so I don't have to deal with the horror that is World Book Day. But there's always a mum, isn't there, that sends her 5 children dressed as Dickensian characters in outfits that she's hand-stitched with fair trade cotton. Yeah, that leaves the rest of us just feeling really inadequate. But I think sometimes we elevate the things that aren't that important, and we sometimes forget the one thing that is important, which is love. And I'm guilty of this as well. I'll be so desperate to make sure the house looks great because we've got guests coming over, that I come in like a hurricane after work and order everybody upstairs to sort their bedrooms out. And they quite rightly say to me, "Isn't it your friend that's coming over?" "Yeah." "Why does my bedroom need to be tidy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but they might go to the toilet upstairs and they might see your room. I don't want that." And so I was looking through the Bible about love. And there's one verse that comes up quite a lot. There's a passage that we hear a lot at weddings, and that's the 1 Corinthians 13. I'm just going to start at the beginning of it here. It says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or clanging cymbal." And it goes on and on and on. And so I thought, I'm going to rewrite that for Mother's Day. I'm going to make Laura's Mother's Day version of this passage. And I kind of thought about all the things we do as mums, that we attempt to do as mums, and sometimes we forget love. So here it is. "If I speak on behalf of my children at the parent governor's meeting but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or cymbal. If I have the capacity to wash and iron, if I can accomplish a healthy gourmet meal and feed my kids their 5 a day, if I manage to navigate the social media minefield, weekly trolley dash, bedtime boundaries, limit sugar, clean up wounds, help with homework, negotiate curfews, change the beds, clean the loo, find lost blazers and attend parents' evenings, but do not have love, I am nothing." And that's quite harsh actually, isn't it, to say I am nothing. I'm a really good organiser, definitely, but if we're not doing these things with love, then we're like missing the best gifts we can get out of being a mum. Because our kids aren't going to remember how tidy the house was, or how many carrots and broccolis they managed to eat, but they will remember if they felt loved. And so what does love look like? And we talk about love a lot in terms of actually it not just being that fuzzy feeling. Any mum will know that the time you get the biggest fuzzy feeling is when you see your kids sleeping. When you look at them when they're sleeping, when they're not there to answer back or to kick off or to make a mess, they're asleep and you go, "Oh, wow." But actually love is an action. Love is something that we do when we put our needs to one side to meet the needs of somebody else. It's a choice and it's continuous. And I just want to say before I carry on that these concepts that I'm going to talk about, just 3 points that I'm going to make, are relevant for everybody in this room. It doesn't matter if you're a mum, it doesn't matter if you're a dad or a child. If you've got friends, these concepts are valuable to everybody, okay? So I thought, how can we be good enough mums? How can we meet the mark in helping our children to feel loved? Maybe helping our friends to feel loved or helping our partners to feel loved. And number one, the first thing that came to mind for me was to listen. And that sounds like a really simple, straightforward concept. You think, well, we all listen, surely. Actually, I'd like to say we don't. We don't do a lot of listening in our day. If you just think about going through your day, how often are we sidetracked by the TV, by our phones, by things we're thinking about, stresses that are going on in life? We don't often sit down and listen. And in the Bible, Jesus was going around preaching and teaching and speaking to people. And the Pharisees of the time, there's a story where children come running up to Jesus and the Pharisees get in the way, and even the other disciples say, shoo, this guy at least is a rabbi, that he could be the Son of God, keep out of his way. Children, should be seen and not heard, that kind of whole ethos that we've carried through a bit with us. But Jesus says, no, let the children come to me. And I don't believe he just wanted to speak to them. If I know Jesus as well as I think I do, I believe that he wanted to listen to them as well. Just like he listens to us. We're not praying to a brick wall. Jesus hears our prayers. He wanted to listen to them. And this whole concept of children should be seen and not heard, I think children really do need to be heard. They need to be seen and heard. I think we can do better for our children than that. And that's why if you know how we do kids' church, the very first thing we do when we get in every week is we have 10 minutes of news time. And that is so that each child has the opportunity to express themselves and talk about what they've done this week before we do anything else. And we encourage the other children to listen and be respectful, but we as kids' church leaders will show interest and ask questions. So we're not just saying you're heard, but we want to know what you've got to say. Okay? And so I mean this when I say it, it's really important. We're all busy as mums. We have our work, we have social lives, housework, then we've got the TV and our downtime as well. But I think it would be really, really valuable if we could all be intentional about setting aside, even if it's 10 minutes a day, to listen. And what I mean by that is to turn off the TV, close the magazine or the book, put your phone upside down and sit face to face with your children and say, how's your day been? And hear. Yes, Kerry? Amazing, yeah. Yeah, how was your day? Explain to me how your day was. That's fantastic. So, for anybody who didn't hear, Kerry was just saying that they use that time on the way home in the car. That's a great opportunity as well, if you're walking home with your children or driving or whatever you do. But to set aside that time to put away every other distraction and converse. And also, there's another point about this when I say listen. Has anybody had a conversation with someone and all you're actually doing is waiting for a gap to say what you want to say? That can happen with our kids as well, yeah? You're just waiting to say your bit. Well, that's not actually listening. Listening is actually a skill. It's intentionally absorbing what the other person's saying and thinking about it, okay? We don't always have to jump in. So the other day, Soph came home and told me something had happened at school and she just wanted me to listen. And unfortunately, I didn't just listen. I jumped in straight away and said, what did you do about that? Are you going to allow that to happen? Did you speak to the teacher? And she was like, no. Why didn't you speak to the teacher? You know, she didn't want me to problem solve for her or get the issue sorted. She just wanted someone to talk to and to listen and to say, yeah, that sounds rubbish. So we don't always need to give advice. We just need to learn to listen and go, wow, that must have been hard. There's an interesting study that ties into this, and they looked into, over a long period of time, the effects of sitting together at the table for dinner every night on children's well-being. And the children that sat with their parents every night for dinner, they had lower levels of drug use in their teens, they had lower levels of sexual promiscuity in their teens, and they did better in school. And so I was like, hang on a minute, get me one of them tables. What table is this? Of course, it's not actually about sitting at the table. It's not actually about having a meal together even. There's one thing that's different about eating together to the rest of our lives, and that is that we have very few distractions. It's difficult to be on your phone while you're ploughing food in, isn't it? It's difficult to be watching telly while you're ploughing food in. And so what it forces us to do is have a conversation. Forces us to listen to each other. So don't all rush out and buy new dining room tables. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is intentionally listen for a few minutes every day. I've got another story about that, but I think we need to move on. So the second point that I wanted to talk about is that we need to learn to celebrate emotions. And that's also probably sounds a bit random. So we as adults and children spend most of our lives trying to avoid difficult, painful feelings and difficult emotions. And now if you hear the news at any point, you'll see that throughout the country we've got big problems with addictions, not just to drugs and alcohol, but to pornography, to gambling, to lots of different things that we're addicted to. And addiction kind of comes from a root of either trying to avoid emotion or trying to produce an emotion. So some of us are trying to escape from the emotions that we're feeling, and some of us are just desperate to feel something. And that's because of a mixture of difficulties, but one of them is that we don't fully understand our feelings, and then we don't know how to appropriately express them. And we learn how to do this through our parents teaching us. And for some of us, our parents didn't teach us what it meant to be angry or what it meant to be sad. You know, for some of us, to be sad was dangerous. For some of us, to be overexcited was dangerous. Maybe we learned that we weren't allowed to express our emotions, so now we don't. But we need to help our children to understand what they are feeling. And you know, all children express their emotions differently depending on what their character is. So in our house, we have 2 extroverts and we have 2 introverts. And it might surprise you, although Darren does say it all the time, Darren and Liam are actually introverts. And it might not surprise you to find that me and Sophie are the extroverts. And so what that means in day-to-day life is that if me and Sophie are emotional or angry, everybody will know about it. Even if one of us is, I mean, sometimes it's both of us, and everybody does hear about that, because it's like, Aah! And we'll really express that. And that might be through getting quite tearful, it might be through being a bit argumentative and shouty. Whereas Daz and Liam, if they're stressed or angry, Liam might go and spend some time on his own to think. Or Daz might give me the silent treatment for a couple of days. So even when he's just being quiet, I'll be a bit worried sometimes that there's something wrong, don't I? Say, you all right? Is everything all right? So we express our emotions in different ways, and as parents we can help our children to learn what the emotions are that they're feeling rather than shutting them down straight away. And it's really easy to do that, so all of us parents will have shut our kids down sometimes, okay? We need to say hands up to that. There's been so many times where maybe Sophie's come to me going, Mum, I've lost my blazer, and I'll say, stop crying and come back and talk to me when you can pull yourself together. It's quite normal to do that, but actually it's not helpful for her. It's not helpful for us to shut our kids down, even though it's difficult to hear that sometimes, crying and screaming and shouting and whining. But what we can do is we put aside a tiny bit of time to sit together with our son or daughter and say, describe to me what it is you're feeling. And then based on what it is they're feeling, then we can empathise when we can say, it sounds like you're frustrated, it sounds like you're feeling ashamed, it sounds like you're feeling anxious. Because a lot of the time, guys, when we express anger, it's not really anger that we're feeling. Anger sometimes is a secondary emotion, and that means we wear it as a mask. So sometimes if your child is being very angry, underneath it might be because they're feeling vulnerable. They might be feeling embarrassed because something embarrassing happened at school, and instead of saying I'm embarrassed, they just become angry. And we do it as well. If I'm anxious, I'll be really irritable with people. If I'm panicking, I can just be really snappy and horrible. But understanding our emotions in the first place can be quite difficult. So I thought we'd just start, just to see if everybody's on the same page. I think it'd be good to think about, just for a couple of minutes, what emotions, certain emotions actually feel like in our bodies. Because then when we twig onto that, it's quite easy then to work it out and to talk about it. So guys, who can tell me, and you can shout out, what it feels like in your body when you feel ashamed?
When I get ashamed, I'm without my face burns.
Yeah, flushing, your cheeks might flush.
Torso's closing inwards a bit.
Yeah, so you feel, do you ever feel like you recoil, you kind of, that feeling that the ground needs to swallow you up?
It's not dark and cold for me,
Yeah. Dark, absolutely. So Harry there has hit the nail on the head with, when we're ashamed, we don't want to be seen. So anybody feel, you know when they say online that they're about that cringe, you have a massive cringe, that's shame or embarrassment. I remember when I was a child, when I was only in primary school, there was a line across the playground, and we were allowed to go right up to the line, but we weren't allowed to cross the line. But there was a dead bird at the other side of the line, and so I was like, I'm crossing the line, and the bird died. I couldn't do anything about it, and that triggered a series of similar line crossing events. It's kind of followed that pattern throughout the rest of my life. I've crossed many lines since then. But I went across the line in the playground and the teacher told Mum, and that evening we were sitting at the table and she said, "Laura, tell Nan what you did today at school." And the first thing I did was I grabbed the tea towel that was on the side of the table, and the only way I could tell my Nan what I'd done was by putting the tea towel over my face, and I said, "I went across the line at school today, Nan." And she said, "Oh, that wasn't very good, was it?" I said, "No." And then I had to hold the tea towel there for a few minutes until I thought she wasn't looking anymore, and then carried on with my dinner. But shame is that intense feeling that we don't want to be seen, we just want to... And so sometimes that can come out as anger if we don't understand we're feeling shame. What about panic? What do you feel like when you're anxious? What happens in your body? Yeah, I feel like vomiting. Everybody knows if I'm anxious because I just can't eat. Like, I'll get to the dinner table and sit there and stare at it. So your stomach just closes up, doesn't it, when you're really, really anxious? Any other feelings people can think of?
Headaches.
Yeah, headaches, heart racing. Yeah, some people get, like, shoulder aches. Clammy hands, yeah. And you just feel you're just full of that intense adrenaline. Again, if we don't know that that's what we're experiencing, it's very difficult to talk about it, and so we just become angry. So instead of talking about situations with our kids, because we talk a lot about things happening, don't we? He said this, she said that, what did you do about it? It'll be really good to say, yeah, but how did that feel? What are you feeling inside? And then as parents we say, that sounds like you're feeling anxious. That sounds like you're feeling vulnerable. We put a label on it and then kids know how to express it. And then they're not scared of their emotions anymore, and they don't try and escape them when they're adults, and they don't become addicted to things in order to feel or not to feel. So we talked about listening, we've talked about celebrating emotion, and then finally, and this one is more brief, we need to help our kids to feel part of a team. No matter how big or small that team is, it might be you and your child, but our family needs to be a team. And Daz talks about this a lot in relationships and in marriages, and if you're in a friendship group, I'd say the same thing, and a marriage and a relationship. We need to know that we're part of a team, and our children need to know that we've got their backs. That seems an obvious one, doesn't it? Our kids need to know that we've got their backs no matter what. That doesn't mean we don't discipline them or that they don't experience the consequences of bad behaviour. It doesn't mean we're blind to what they do. But it does mean that ultimately they know that they're part of a safe and secure team, that no matter what happens, no matter what they say or do, they're still loved and they're still supportive. And what that looks like, teams cheer each other on and teams are loyal. And so sometimes we need to challenge our vocabulary in the way we talk to our kids and the way we talk about our kids. And if you've not got kids, that might be the way you talk to your partner or your husband. It might be the way you talk to your friends and the way you talk about them. We need to be really positive. And so it helps us to notice the little things. They might have been an absolute animal all week. And that discipline is needed, isn't it? But if they've done a single good thing, let's cheer that thing. Yeah? Well done for putting your crisp packet in the bin. Well done for shutting the front door when you came in rather than leaving it open. Well done for coming to me for advice rather than doing whatever it was you were going to do. Well done. And when we're talking about our kids, we need to be positive about them. We need to tell people the good things they've done. We can seek support if we need support for things that are going on, but we need to be positive. And so some parents will find these concepts that we've discussed more difficult than other parents because some of us have experienced this. If we've had a really good relationship with our own parents, maybe they've been very supportive and they've listened to us well. But if we haven't had that experience, it's kind of like we're doing stuff that we've never had ourselves. And if anyone remembers, a couple of weeks back I shared a picture of Daz helping Liam with his homework, and I was in the kitchen cooking, and I just looked round and I thought, wow man, Daz didn't know what he was doing. He admitted, I don't know what I'm doing. They went and got the laptop to have a look because they're both kind of stabbing in the dark at what is this question? But it just really touched my heart to see that Daz was doing something he's not following a model of what been in the past. And the Bible says, the psalmist in the Bible says, that children are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. How powerful is that? Our children are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. And mums and dads, we have the privilege and the massive challenge of shooting our children way beyond where we've ever been. And if we can put some of these kind of skills, I guess, into practice, it's kind of in essence the same as pulling the bow back just a bit further. Just getting that bit further. Even if you've never experienced that yourself, we can try. And it's difficult and it's hard, but I think if our hearts are for our kids, we'll manage some of this stuff. And so guys, our children, they don't need us to have a beautiful house. They don't need expensive holidays. They don't have to have the best car or the best clothes. All of that stuff's great. But what they do need is to know they're loved. They do need us to listen to them. They do need to be able to express themselves, and they need to feel part of a team. And so guys, no matter what you've been through and what has been gone in the past, I just want to say there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So don't beat yourself up about not being one, because it don't exist. But we can all be good enough together. Thank you guys. I'll clear that up in a minute.
Oh my